Hello and welcome to another edition of Ask the Experts. In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important for every parent out there: choosing the right school for your child. Now, joining us today is someone who truly understands the ins and outs of education. Jacey Proetta, the owner and head teacher of Calpe International School, located in the beautiful area of San Pedro. Not only is Calpe known for its vibrant international community and personalised education, but it's also proud to hold prestigious accreditations from both ACADE and NABSS, two key organisations that set high standards for schools here in Spain. We'll be discussing how choosing the right school can impact your child's development, the unique benefits of attending an international school, and what makes Calpe International School stand out in a competitive educational landscape. We'll also explore what those accreditations mean for you as a parent and why they matter when choosing a school. And if you're a parent in Spain or thinking about relocating here, you won't want to miss this. So, without further ado, let's welcome Jacey to the show. Jacey, great to have you here today. Nice to see you.
Same here.
Are you good? Great. So, start by telling us a little bit about Calpe.
My father started the school in 1973. So we're in our 51st into our 52nd year of providing British education on the Costa del Sol. And yes, just evolving with the needs of the children, evolving with the needs of the government sets to us, and just, yes.
So what inspired you think your family to start the school?
My father was always a pioneer of his era, and he felt frustrated with the educational system and the way it was being provided for in the UK and in Gibraltar. So he came over with my mum and just felt that he could do something better and just started that way, I suppose. And it's slowly grown from there. There was a big demand from international clients here on the Costa del Sol in the 70s. So he was like, okay, then you know what, that's a perfect opportunity to start. He started in the caravan and just worked his way up.
Really? Let's talk about the benefits of international education. Now, obviously, we have a lot of international clients coming over from all parts of the world to relocate here. A lot of them have children, and there's some choice available, isn't there? You've got the state school, and you've got international schools to choose from as well. What are some of the key advantages of choosing an international school, especially for families living in Spain or relocating?
I think there's several advantages. One, there's a lot of them, because there's a lot of international people here. So the standards are of a high standard generally amongst the schools. So you're going to receive a very good English education within the majority of the international schools. And I think it's also a good melting pot to meet the kind of people that are here in the Costa del Sol. I was brought up in international schools, like lots of my friends were. And I think it really gives you a broad scope of what the world is like. You meet people from different cultures, different religions, different financial expectations. And I think that's a real asset to empathize with people when you go and do business. Ultimately, the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
So obviously you're, to give an example, Calpe is attracting an international client base, if you like, of children coming. How do you cater for diverse culture, linguistic backgrounds, all that sort of thing?
So we have additional staff, basically. So we're the only school that I'm aware of that has a teacher and an assistant in every single year group. We have also support programs for English as a foreign language. And you just got to give the children the support to learn the English language, understand the English culture. And I think with that one-to-one or that small group attention to detail allows first children to make that transition from whatever school they've come from to our school. Again, being within the international schools, or one of the smaller international schools, so the children settle quickly in. You're able to really tailor their needs for the children. And then once the children feel safe within the environment and they understand that you're meeting their needs, they really start to blossom.
Now, looking at international schools, we might know them as private schools against the state. So I remember when we first moved over 13 years ago and we had two small girls and children bringing over, we were told that, to go into a state school, Benavis, for example, at Colegio de Alcantara, it had a great reputation at the time. And I guess there were benefits of that. And what kind of steered us at the time, because we didn't know, away from private schools, is that misconception that it's going to cost a lot of money like the UK. But actually, remarkably, it's not as expensive as we know, is it, for a private school here, international?
So it's a lot cheaper in the UK. So I know, for example, if you've got a 3-year-old or 4-year-old back in the UK, you're paying excess of £1,000 a month for education. And I would say on average, you're looking between £500 to £700 would be your monthly cost. You're looking at a good 30% cheaper. And I would say that's true all the way through the educational system. Different cultures have different ways of learning. And one of the reasons why the British education system is so successful all around the world. So I know that you mentioned about different associations about schools, but there's other associations, COBIS and associations in Latin America, associations in the Middle East, and there's British schools all over the world. There's more British schools than any other culture in the world.
What is that?
So the reason for that is because, and British people take it for granted, but the rest of the world realizes there's something exceptional, and that is that it's child-based. So the British system is about learning to learn. So I'll give you a perfect example. The Spanish system and the French system, particularly, it's very much learn to memorize. So let's say let's say we've got this plant here. The Spanish system and the French system will get the plant, they'll break it down into all these little parts, the petals, photosynthesis, absorption of water, and you'll study it to great depth in a book. You might do that for a week, 2 weeks, and then there'll be an exam at the end of 2 weeks, and that's it. And they'll never touch it again, move on. So what the children learn to do and what the teachers learn to do is to make sure the children memorize the information. The British system would be much more, okay, let's bring yogurt pots in, let's put earth, let's put some seeds in, let's put some yogurt pots in by a window, let's put some in the fridge, let's put some with no earth, and you'll do experiments. So you won't go to the great depth, but you'll make it more physical. So what happens is that goes to the part of the brain where you're touching it, you're feeling it, you're experiencing it over a longer period of time. So you'll retain it more. So the British system in general does this approach, which makes it a more successful system long-term for learning, because ultimately information memorizing is on the internet. So if you want to find a name or something, just go into the internet and find it out. But the British system teaches you to understand and to gather information. What do I use it for? So I suppose, and I think what happens with a lot of people when they come from the UK or from other countries, they want to immerse themselves into focusing about learning a language, opposed to realizing that education is everything.
Yeah.
And the international schools British international schools really support that.
So what sort of nationalities are we looking at in Calpe?
I would say it's a real melting pot, and it's a reflection of what's going on the Costa del Sol. So you've had the people previous to Brexit, it was a lot of British people here. I would say Brexit has had an effect where British families have had to go back. We're getting more British families in. Looking at international schools, you've got basically the coast, which is from, say, Gibraltar, Cadiz, going all the way up to Barcelona. I would say that those schools predominantly have a 25% percentage of British families and 25% Spanish families. And then the rest will be other European countries and countries from abroad.
So choosing the right school can be overwhelming, as we know. And what advice would you give to parents who are currently exploring the options in Spain?
I would say my advice is remember that you're the client, that you're paying for a service. And there's a saying that I live by, act at haste, repent at leisure. And I feel that people forget that schools are also businesses, and some schools are very pushy, trying to put pressure on parents for places. Some schools are not so pushy. But I think children and parents, if you just go in there and say, does it feel right? Is it the sort of place where I would like my child to learn? Does my child feel comfortable? You're on a good start. And then all British schools in Spain now have to be Ofsted inspected or the equivalent. So you can have a look at the school's inspection reports online. There's lots of reviews online. So I think, just like cars, there's different types of cars. For Ferrari is a beautiful car, but if you've got a family, it's not going to be very practical, is it? And I think all schools look for specific points, and the head has a big input on that. So some schools are extremely academic, some schools are extremely sporty, some schools are very nurturing, some schools are in the middle. So I think you've got to really understand what is that suits your child and choose the child to the school. And then we're like clothes, we all have our style, and there's always going to be pros and cons to whatever school you choose.
Sure. Now, for families new to international schools, how can they ensure that the transition is a smooth process for their kids?
I think it's choosing the right school.
Yeah.
So I think communication is key. Ultimately, children are the most important thing to any family, and you want to make sure you take that decision. And you've got to make sure that you feel that the school has an open door policy to you being able to communicate your needs. You've got to make sure that the school knows your child and understands what your child needs. I'm very in a fortunate position where our school is full. So I'm very aware, and I'm selective about the kind of families and children that we choose. Ultimately, we all want success in life. And what is success for me is to have happy children that make progress, and supportive families.
Sure.
And I think when you're choosing the school for yourself, depending on what your values are, you should look for a school that reflects those values.
Sure. Now, we spoke earlier about accreditations.
Yes.
Calpe, of course, has the accreditations of NABSS and ACADE as well. Can you let us know what that is? What do they mean?
So NABSS and ACADE are associations. So NABSS stands for National Association of British Schools in Spain. So schools that are able to join this association are schools that have all their licenses in order. So you've got your local authority licenses, you've got your educational license from the British government, and then you've got to apply to the Spanish Educational Department, in our case, the Junta de Andalucía, and get several licenses. And once you've got that, you can join NABSS. ACADE is an association which represents private education in Spain. So that's from kindergartens all the way up to private universities. And those associations are there to support you and support the schools and protect schools from any new legislation that comes in, and to make sure that they're kind of a quality assurance. So think of like you have the NCAP for cars, you have like the 1-star, 4-star, 5-star rating. So basically schools that have these associations says that they've met certain expectations. But the inspections authority is actually done by the British government. NABSS has created a company called NIS, and you have to be inspected every 3 years. But there are other educational authorities that do inspections. And when they do inspections, they're very thorough. They make sure that safeguarding is in place, make sure that the teaching is of a sufficient standard, that the teachers have got the qualifications that they need to have. And what's happened is over the years is that the standards have raised. So education in Spain is very, very closely aligned to the UK. It's practically seamless in most schools. Some schools it isn't, but the good schools it is.
Great. Now, I know that for sure Calpe is always looking to the future. Have you got any exciting projects coming up, or any plans for the future that you can share with us at this moment?
At the moment, as I think my focus is just make sure that everything runs smoothly.
How easy is that on a day-to-day basis?
That's very difficult. People forget that school, we're in the people business, ultimately, because our clients are people, children, and the people who instruct those children are other human beings, teachers, assistants, kitchen staff, maintenance staff. And ultimately, it's people that teach people. A building never taught anybody anything. So it can be very stressful to make sure that everybody's talking to everybody at the same time, making sure that things run smoothly, that there is a clear vision of what the school's values are, and that there is a clear protocols of making sure that things get moved on to department appropriately. So it's very busy. It's very busy, but ultimately extremely rewarding.
For me, Calpe feels more like a village, very friendly, but has a village feel about it.
Right,
almost.
yes,
Like you have in the lovely villages in the United Kingdom or whatever, and It's a lovely environment there, isn't it? It feels like they're very family orientated as well.
So we're one of the few independent schools still left in Spain. Predominantly now, a lot of the schools are being sold to international groups. They're owned by pension funds. So what's happened is that they're becoming quite, just by the nature and the size of them, the schools are here predominantly have got 500, 700, 1,000 children plus. So you kind of get lost in the melee. We've, 150, 160 children. We're exclusively primary. So with my OCD of making sure that things run smoothly, making sure that I know the children's names, and also making sure the teachers feel accountable, it does create that nurturing environment. And our school motto is happy to learn. And happy to learn also goes in hand to hand with happy to teach. So when you've got that kind of fostering environment, it does create a sense of community. Children, at the end of the day, don't want to leave school. We have an open door policy where the children can stay and play in the playground. The parents feel safe there, and I have to ask parents, it's time to go now. We've got other things.
I was talking to a parent the other day, actually, and they were saying that you still, after years and years and years, you stand at the entrance to the school and say good morning to every single child that comes in. That's amazing.
I get such pleasure from it. I think I'm passionate about education. I'm not naturally academic. It was something that I've had to foster, work hard at, and it gives me a lot of empathy towards children. And I think people seriously underestimate how intuitive children are. Children are very intuitive. I'll give you an example. I had a family round. Maybe a year ago, something like that. I was showing them around, and they'd looked at another big international school close by, and they said that their daughter had not let go of their mum and dad's hands while they'd been looking around the school, that they could feel the anxiety from their daughter. And then when Michelle was showing them around, and then I spoke to them at the end, the little girl was happy to go and do an activity, stayed in the classroom, and that shows you that within that 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the school, that child felt safe enough to leave the mother. And I think, if a child's happy to do that, you will learn.
Yes.
Children will learn. Nobody can force you to learn. If you close your mind, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, you don't learn anything. If you feel relaxed and you feel open, you will just absorb the thing that's going on.
Without even realizing. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so I suppose that's the fun for me, is getting that from the children.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Jacey, thank you so much for your insights. It's really, really appreciated. I'm sure it helped many people in navigating around, what best to do when relocating to Spain. So it's clear that choosing the right school is about so much more than just academics. It's about finding a place that truly nurtures and inspires your children to thrive. For those of you watching, if you'd like to learn more about Calpe International School, do visit their website or stop by for a visit. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to hear more about episodes like this. So from Jacey and myself, Darren, we'll see you next time.